Sure, sweetheart. You're not gonna sit on.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming out today.
Those pants.
Yay, yay, yeah, yeah!
Rebecca and I had been working. Sorry, I'm a little sick, so my voice is gonna crack a bit. But Rebecca and I had been working on setting up a benefit concert for the past 2 years. It took us a while to decide what our cause would be, and many asked us why we chose suicide. Suicide is the 8th leading cause of death in America, yet it so often goes unnoticed. Along with the approximate 86 Americans who commit suicide each day, about 1,500 more attempt to do so. Many who attempt to do not even receive treatment afterwards to keep them from doing so again. I believe that this stark reality needs light shed on it, so we can help create a better reality. Every one of us can work together to make a change. Other than making a donation today or showing your support, you can do simple acts that may save a life. For one, think before you act and speak. Something that may not seem mean to you may be very hurtful to the person you are asking it or saying it in front of. There is so many suffering that we don't know of, and one comment can push them to hurt themselves or take their own life. Knowing the signs of depression and of a suicidal person can also be very helpful. So please check out our informative booths near the gazebo. Furthermore, the other reason behind me choosing suicide to raise awareness for is because both suicide and depression are close to home for me. In 7th grade, I started to have attacks where I wouldn't be able to stand, along with many other symptoms. At first, we thought something was wrong with me neurologically, but after having a lot of testing done, we eventually found it to be anxiety. It was a daily struggle. I'd have attacks almost every day for a while. I couldn't breathe, I'd be nauseous, weak, my fingers would go numb, and I just couldn't control it. A lot of times, I didn't know why I was anxious, and therefore it made it 10 times harder for it to calm down. I hated myself for not being able to control it, and I started to develop depression. When I started seeing a therapist for both my anxiety and depression, I began to be able to control my anxiety better and better over time. However, it took a lot of work. My depression seemed My depression seems to continue, however. And although I wasn't having full-blown anxiety attacks as often, I'd get anxious over how people saw me and what they thought of me. This started to make me constantly worry about the things I did and how I looked. I developed a lot of self-image issues, and at points, I had been on the verge of developing an eating disorder. Sorry. All of my issues, my anxiety, depression, and self-image issues played into each other and made each worse. I became distant with certain friends because they didn't want to deal with how emotional I was. Now I couldn't handle a joke or didn't want to go out certain nights because I couldn't handle being around people when I was having a high anxiety day. It got to a point where I would do ignorant things to try to stop the pain, but it only ended up making it worse. I just wanted to feel better. I felt lost, like no one, not even myself, understood how I felt. I made a blog on Tumblr where I expressed my feelings and gave people going through similar situations advice, and I still do now. I told people who felt they weren't worth it that they were, but I didn't listen to my own advice. I seemed to see the beauty in everything and everyone but myself. There were a few nights I'd gotten to a point where I didn't think I could take it anymore. I felt so much hatred toward myself, a type of hatred I could never feel towards anyone else. I felt like I would never be good enough. Luckily, even though it felt like I couldn't, I was able to get through it with the help of my family and a few close friends that always stuck by my side. Certain things started to fall into place in my life, and every time I felt I wasn't worth it, I told myself I was, no matter how difficult it was to do so. Now I try to focus on the things I love to do, such as work on my art and listen to music when I'm feeling down or anxious. To this day, I still have bad days, but I refuse to give up because I know that each dark point in life is followed by a brighter part. As you can see, it's not always obvious that someone is suffering. Just because someone is depressed or suicidal, it doesn't mean they are crazy. It's not always the stereotypical girl that hides her hair behind her face, or the boy who doesn't talk and wears black. That girl you envy may find it hard to keep living, or the boy that you think has it all may might feel they are never good enough. Just because you have anxiety, depression, or any other mental disorder does not mean you can't live a normal life. It just means you have to try that much harder. There were times where I felt I couldn't accomplish something because I was afraid I was going to have a panic attack. But here I am in front of all of you now. There are millions of people throughout America in a dark place that feel they have no one to go to. And you or your friend beside you might be one of them. All it takes is one moment of feeling too much self-hatred, one insult from someone that pushes you over the edge, one day too long of having to keep your sadness buried behind a smile. And in that one moment, a beautiful soul can be given to God before it's supposed to. I can say from experiencing such a moment that you can't let that moment win. You must push past it, because if you give into that moment, you'll never be able to have another moment of happiness, of love, of friendship, of family, or of accomplishment ever again. And I promise you that if you can beat that moment, there will be great moments ahead. So today, let's show those in the dark that we care. Let's sing out of this darkness and into the sunlight.